Today, I'm going to be talking to Gurpreet Lail, who is the Enserva CEO. And Enserva is the organization that serves service companies in the oil and gas industry, manufacturing companies, those sorts of firms. And her organization has recently released OnePath, which is an ESG reporting platform. So I'm going to talk to her about that. Welcome to the interview, Gurpreet.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's good to see you again. Um, One of the things that, and before we get into the functionality of the OnePath, I'm really interested about why your organization created OnePath. And you mentioned in the press release that there's an increasing volume of documentation required by banks and insurance companies and so on. Maybe you could address that if you don't mind.
Absolutely. I mean, ESG started a while ago. It's actually transformed where it started as ESG reporting and now it's more into sustainability reporting. But we found that it was, our customers that were saying, hey, our insurance companies are asking a lot of details on disclosure on all fronts. And we knew it was just a matter of time that it was going to come down to the supply chain, which is all of our membership. And we want to be proactive and help our members in making sure that, they can understand what's going on because quite frankly, like the goalpost keeps moving and it's hard to keep up. And we wanted to provide a tool that, obviously had technological advancements behind it, but we wanted to provide an opportunity for our membership to actually be able to report in a succinct, viable, quick manner that can report into their customers, and the customers can provide their reports all the way down to the supply chain.
Yeah, that's really interesting because like the oil patch where you get, there are plenty of big companies like the oil sands producers, but there are still quite a few small producers and they don't have the resources necessarily, the staff on board who could do this kind of work. And I imagine it's got to be the same in your members. You get some big ones, but you have plenty of small ones that, are based out. There's service companies, they're drilling companies, vacuum companies that are out in rural Alberta that would probably be a big target market for this.
Absolutely. I mean, even our multinational companies, they were part of our ESG council that actually informed our playbook almost a year and a half ago. And now we transformed that playbook into a technological program that our members can utilize. And that includes the multinationals all the way down to, two-man entrepreneurial shops that are located in different parts of Alberta and Canada.
Well, let's talk about the OnePath itself. I was a little confused in reading your press release. Does it use a central database where everybody's information is collected? Did I read that correctly?
So it's a program where our membership information will be collected in terms of what is required for our members to report on for sustainability based on what our customers have provided as feedback. So, I don't know if you recall the health and safety frameworks that came out years ago. We had to answer all the same questions over and over again that weren't really useful to our customers, but we did it because that's how the programs were set up. Now we've learned from that and we said, when it comes to sustainability reporting or ESG reporting, what is actually going to be important to our members and important to our customers? And that's what our members are going to be going into and actually inputting data and then getting their reports out. So it's something that's available to all our membership. And if our customers want to come and look at different reports, they are also welcome to come utilize it. It's a one path, right? That's why we named it OnePath, because we want one form of collaboration across the industry. We want one place for everybody to be able to input their data, learn on how to actually input some of this data. Like you said, some companies don't have the resources. A lot of our members don't have the resources. So we're providing that for everybody, and it's getting everybody to be working together on one path.
What kind of data are your members being asked to collect? I mean, there's some obvious things that, like greenhouse gas emissions, that a supplier might be generating. But what other kind of data that may not be as, come to mind as quickly, would they be required?
Yeah, so like emissions was always this huge data collection that, came out when ESG was first a brand new thing around environment. The only thing everybody could think about was like, oh, we got to figure out emissions, which is great. But then there's also the S and the G part of ESG that came out. So that's why rolled into sustainability, it makes sense. And we talk about our safety. Health and safety is huge. And the trends around health and safety are extremely important. And we should be reporting on that. We should be talking about Indigenous relationships, where we're heading on that piece. What are we doing in community investment and getting involved in the communities that we work in and we live in? And so, you look at all of that and you look at what we're doing around, reclamation and recycling water and capturing, et cetera. It's all getting captured in here so that, emissions is one piece of the pie. This pie is a big pie, and we need to start focusing on all the other ingredients, which is also a huge thing that should be part of the social and governance point of reporting. And that's what our membership should be focusing on.
One of the things that I've read some articles about is that companies that are in the oil patch, whether they be producers, whether they be service companies, regardless of what they do, their access to capital, for example, is partly determined on their ESG score. And is that something that we're seeing more and more of, amongst your members?
I wouldn't say you're seeing more of it because, we have a lot of members that are actually privately held, so they're not public companies. I think in the public space for membership, absolutely, they report on their sustainability and or ESG reports. But what our membership asked for was for us to be proactive so that, come the time that they do have to report, and it's not necessarily just on capital, but to insurance companies, like they're ready and they're able to do so in a timely manner.
Well, let's talk about some of the nuts and bolts of this thing. Can you give our viewers just an idea of how it works?
Sure. I'll make it as easy as I can. But it's AI powered in the back end, and I'm not your technical person, so forgive me. But a company, I'll take a transportation company as an example. They'll log in, they'll upload, their data in terms of the questions that are being asked. And at the end of the day, the calculations in the background will give them their report, and they'll have to get somebody else to make it all pretty, but it'll give them all the data, and the data that they get from that report, they can utilize and provide to their customers. And it doesn't matter what framework their customer is utilizing. This is framework agnostic. So it can filter into any of our customers' frameworks that are the major 5 and give them a report that's going to be useful for them. They can also, on the other end, give a report out to the banks or financial institutions or insurance companies, whomever is asking for it, to their own employees to talk about the good that we're doing in the community. And it's that easy. Like, it's not complicated. There's drop-down menus to actually explain. So if somebody doesn't understand and you've got a 5-fleet truck or 5 trucks in one fleet, and you're trying to figure out emissions, there's a drop-down menu for you to understand what that requires and what you need to input, and it gives you a calculation at the end.
And I would imagine that, it seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, but your organization really represents a lot of the supply chains that are in the industry. And supply chains can be fairly long. And my impression is that the financial regulators, the banks, the insurance companies, as you mentioned, are wanting to know more and more, not just about the operation of that particular company, but the supply chains that they rely upon for the goods and services that they purchase. Is that becoming more of a focus?
I wouldn't say it's becoming more of a focus. We've heard some instances, but it really hasn't been that prevalent coming down to the supply chain. We think you'll see it across the border right now, depending on how the election outcomes, like either you're reporting on ESG or you're not. Like, it is that divisive. But with Canada, what we're seeing is that there are regulations that are changing and reporting metrics keep changing. But what we want to be able to provide is an avenue for our membership to be at that forefront to say, yeah, okay, we've got it. We don't want to be caught on our, on the backs of our feet saying, oh, this was coming and we didn't do anything about it. So I don't necessarily think it's just the banks that are driving this and saying we need to look into the supply chain. I think it's, like I've always said, we represent a group that are the innovators and the solution finders, and this is a solution that they came up with, and we just want to be ready and prepared if and when this is required.
Yeah, it sounds like there's an increasing demand for sustainable practices, ESG disclosures, coming in Canada. What do you anticipate over the next, say, 2 to 5 years?
So we're facing the same thing in Canada. We're just a little bit behind in the United States, and it's always the case. So in Canada, there's some points where everybody's like, there's going to be a higher demand for us to report. And in some cases, it's like, well, no, everybody's going to be so focused on making sure there's affordability for Canadians that, we've got jobs, we've got healthcare, that this isn't going to be that much in the forefront, and it's not going to be important. However, that being said, and I've said this over and over again, but for our members, it's just important to be ready and prepared if and when this comes to fruition, or if it doesn't, it does still provides them with a tool to capture their data and report.
Great. Gurpreet, thank you very much. Good to see you again. And
Thank you.
good luck with the launch of OnePath.
Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you again.